it's remarkable, and it's a mark of truly great people that after having achieved international prominence and success, that they can reflect on their careers and still remember what's really important in life. Walter Cronkite is one of those people. The Truman Foundation is very proud to present the 2004 Good Neighbor Award to a man whose Midwestern roots and common sense and the tradition of Harry S. Truman were the foundation of a career that would make him the most respected and trusted voice on the air. Ladies and gentlemen, Walter Cronkite.
Thank you all for that lovely reception. And Carl, thank you for your kind remarks. Mike, I appreciate your great job as Toastmaster. And I want to be reminded never to appear on the same program with you again. You're far too clever, far too funny for me. I can't keep up with you. You know, I am obviously so pleased with the fact that I would be so honored with this Truman Award today. I really am not falsely modest when I try to explain to you that I don't know what my community service really has been, except trying to be a good reporter, an honest reporter, as nearly fearless reporter as is permitted in our trade. More recently, I've been doing a column for the King Feature Syndicate, and for the first time, I've been liberated from the constraints of impartial reporting, and I've managed to make a great number of friends and far more enemies with that column since last August in one of the most important and indeed perilous years of, I think, the American history, and it is a period that constantly reminds us of the integrity, the humanity, the understanding of Harry Truman, and we can certainly, and I don't think I am having to speak politically here between Democrats and Republicans, but I can think that every one of us would believe that it would be a wonderful miracle if we could possibly bring Harry back to give us some advice today in these difficult years ahead of us, difficult days indeed, in which we are suffering so severely right at this moment. What a guy he was! What a wonderful person he was. Of course, one of the great things that he had going for him was that he was a Missourian, and that imbued him, of course, with many of these great characters, great features of his character. The honesty, the forthrightness, the ability to face the problems of the day, the facts of the day, his own difficulties, and overcome them. It is my great pleasure to get back here to my homeland and again meet you wonderful Kansas Cityans, you wonderful Missourians, and I'll give a small nod to those who may be from across the state line. We always have trouble, those of us who are on one side of a state line or other. I remember when I was in Kansas City, we felt that Kansans couldn't drive. Well, in New York, we believe the New Jerseyans can't drive. It seems to go with the territory. But there is so much about all of you that just coming back confuses me again with the enthusiasm for being an American. It seems to me here you people in the shadows of a great American, Harry Truman himself, represent the very best of our American people, the very best of humanity. And that's not just to try to butter you up for any other comments I may make, but it is the true thing that happens to my heart. You know, I was very lucky to know Harry Truman fairly well. That is, as well as a reporter is ever permitted to know a sitting president of the United States. I'll tell you the couple of stories about my association with the president. For one thing, in this very room, you know, where we sit, this was where he met the press on that election morning and claimed victory as the next president of the United States. And I was here in this room at that time. It was a thrilling time for those reporters of us who, of course, came from this area, who had that native pride of our man who'd been elected president. But I was reporting it for United Press, and I must say that this room was filled with, of course, press people from around the world, and they all seemed to have that same enthusiasm. Enthusiasm for an individual with, we must acknowledge, some concern at the time as to whether Harry Truman, who had been selected as the vice presidential candidate under Franklin Roosevelt, had what it took to be the president of the United States. He came into office, as you all remember, of course, at a time right when the war was coming to an end, and he was about to sit down with the leaders of the Allied armies, the Allied nations, with Winston Churchill, no less, with Stalin, no less, and to decide on how we were going to cut up or run or handle the conquered Germany. The question was a pretty good one. Was this man who came from the heartland of America, who had had very little experience in anything like not only running the nation, but having a great deal to do with how the world was going to be run over the next few years. Did he have it? I heard of the death of Franklin Roosevelt and the ascension to power of Harry Truman while I was running the United Press Bureau in Brussels, Belgium. And I must say that even to me, I was very concerned. Could our Harry Truman take on that great responsibility and perform the duties of the office and the demands of the office with the skill it was going to take? Well, he of course disabused any of us of our doubts at that particular moment. Boy, did he. Let me tell you about the election night itself, though. It's a story that, surprisingly to me, has not had more currency in the various histories of Harry Truman. I was on the lawn all night of election night of the Delaware Avenue residence of Vice President Truman and his family. And during that night, those were happier days when we didn't have so much security around the president. And we were even permitted, the several of us who were on the watch all night, to be there when he decided to make his statement. Of course, we rather expected, if you remember, that this statement was going to be a concession to Tom Dewey. All the polls showed that Dewey was going to win that election. And indeed, as you remember, the Chicago Tribune even got out with a big headline, Dewey wins, picking the very early returns. But at any rate, that's what we expected the story to be. And so there were a few of us out there on the lawn all night long, a rather chilly night. In fact, a darn cold night. It was very uncomfortable out there. And we were waiting for the president to perhaps come forward with a concession statement. The house was dark. There were no lights on within the Truman house at all, except during the night, every once in a while, the light would come on up on the second floor, and then a light on what was clearly a bathroom window, a smaller window. And the light would go on in the bedroom and then in the bathroom. The light would go off in the bathroom and back to the bedroom. The assumption was rather clear over what was going on up there at that time. And we were there all night long. And just about dawn, a spokesman, I think it was a Secret Service man as I recall, came out of the house and said, "Boys, you can go home now." We were all boys then. The women did not have a post at that time in covering the presidential affairs. At any rate, a few of us were still there, having frozen all night long, having constantly been, we had no portable radios then. We had to go back up the street where there was a public telephone to call our offices to find out whether there was any news yet. Could we possibly go home yet? And anyway, we spent the night that way, and we'd watch this little drama as so we did know obviously he was still in the house. Well, when the Secret Service boys came out and said, "You guys can go home now, and you know the vice president isn't here anyway." And we said, "Wait a minute, what do you mean he isn't here?" And they said he spent the night out, not at the house. We can't tell you where it was, but we can tell you he's not here. Well, we didn't believe that for a minute. We'd seen this light go on all night and thing, and we only learned later, of course, that he actually spent the night out at the Elms in Excelsior Springs. But at any rate, we left knowing full well that we had been, conned, that he really was there. But we were told then by our offices when we checked in that indeed it appeared that he was out of town and we could go back to our offices. What we did was, most of it ended up coming back here in this room as the president came in from Excelsior Springs and triumphantly accepted the election of himself as the next president of the United States. Margaret, his daughter, who was a rather close friend of Betsy's and mine, mostly because she married a newspaper man who was a good friend of ours in New York, and we were kind of very close friends. Margaret denied to her very last day that this subterfuge took place. She said, "Oh no, nobody did that. Nobody turned on the lights off and on to make." No, it didn't happen. Well, Margaret, I don't know. I don't know whether Margaret fibbed or whether Margaret didn't know. She may have been in a bedroom on the other side of the house for all I know. But somebody turned those lights on and made us think it was there. And of course, then we came here and heard the acceptance of the presidency of the United States. Our Truman days were wonderful. I had the great privilege of being one of the 3 network reporters who did the first tour that any president ever permitted to television in the White House. And that president was, of course, Harry Truman. The 3 networks split the floors, and I was given the ground floor and the basement for CBS. It was a wonderful occasion to be with the president. It's not being in any way a mistake, I don't think, to say that that the president was a little bit crusty. You know, he when he was not entirely pleased with the way life was going for him at the moment, could be a little bit sharp. Well, he was, I think, persuaded to do this tour of the White House by some advisors. Television was fairly new, and there was this opportunity for the public to see the White House with a tour on television, and there I was for the ground floor and the basement. And I found that something with President Truman that I then found in my observance of the White House in years since then, that affects all people who rise to that great office, the President of the United States, for heaven's sakes. There is among them a particular pride in what the White House has meant to them, and what influence it's had in its decorations and its involvement as such a historical site. I learned that the first time with President Truman. As we started walking around the ground floor, I said something about, I'd done my homework, of course, you know, on the White House. And I said, and this is the Dolly Madison room, which we walked into that room on the ground floor. I said, this is the Dolly Madison room. This is the room that Dolly Madison redid after the White House was burned in the War of 1812. And for the first time, the president had been fairly cordial up to then. He kind of looked a little angry, and he said, yes, and this is the room that Best redid. Best put that picture up there, and Best put that picture there. Oh, you know, yes, sir. I certainly appreciate knowing that, of course. You certainly straightened me out on that. We got downstairs and in the basement and the White House, and we went into at that point, fairly bare room down in the cellar. And I said, as I say, knowing my homework, as we went into that room, I said, oh, yes, Mr. President, and this is the room in which Franklin Roosevelt did all of his fireside chats. This is the room where I have done all my broadcasting, right here. You just can't top a sitting president of the United States, even a man as modest as Harry Truman. He was a wonderful figure of our time and a great president, and it is remarkable that this fellow from Independence, Missouri, should have become one of the really great presidents of our time, having to make one of the most horrendous decisions that any president was ever asked to make, and that was whether we should drop the nuclear bomb, and not only drop one, but have to drop two. And it was a matter that must have weighed very heavily on him, not only as he made the decision, But in the years after that, knowing what terrible destruction and loss of life it cost for us to make that military maneuver. Of course, as we all know, for heaven's sakes, it saved tens upon tens of thousands of American lives that we did not have to spare, did not have to lose in invading the Japanese islands. A great man that we can all be so proud of, and I am particularly proud, of course, of getting this award in his name by your organization, which has done so much to preserve the very philosophy of Harry Truman in the great attitude and feeling he had toward we members of the democracy. That is our most precious, our most precious. What can one say about our democracy except it's the most precious? I do want to say also, before I yield this podium, which you may be wondering when will come about, it's very shortly now, to say something about these students who are sponsored by your organization. And I had a chance to meet, I think, all of them who are here with us today, including your award winners. And what a thrill it is to meet these young people who will be the leaders in their own countries and who have had this opportunity and have given us the opportunity to be with them so that we can exchange information about our countries, an understanding of really what neighborliness is all about. Neighborliness is not, of course, that of across the street or around the corner, but we desperately need friends like we've never needed them before. Your scholarships are creating, we assume, friends. I feel confident that in the institutions in this particular area, reflecting the values of Middle America, they will be carried around the world to the benefit of all mankind, and we can be so grateful to them for coming to our country and I hope getting the kind of information and education which will carry them back to success in their home countries and will be of incredible value to the United States as we attempt to rebuild our friendships around the world, which have unfortunately deteriorated under the pressure of recent political world events. Thank you all so very much, and good day and good luck to all of you.